during the discourse or at the end. We prefer that you do it during the discourse. If you have any questions and comments, please feel free to share at that time. We prefer that you do. And so without further delay, I turn to Dr. Yamina for tonight's session. Jazakumullah khair.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So remember in ayah 15 and 16 of Surah Sajdah, Surah 32, we're told the people who truly believe in our ayat are only those who, when they are reminded of them, they fall down prostrating and glorify their Rabb, their sustainer, with praise, and they are not arrogant. And in 16, who besides restlessly shun their beds, it means they are impelled to rise from their beds to call on their sustainer, on their Rabb, in fear and hope, and who spend from what we provide for them. So we had mentioned the 4 qualities of the believers that I mentioned in ayah 15. As soon as they are reminded of God's ayat, they fall in sajda, in prostration. The true believer glorify their Rabb, yusabbihun wa sabbahu, and they praise their Rabb, they make hamd, wa sabbahu bihamdi rabbihim. And then the 4th one is, the 4th quality in this ayah is humility. They are not arrogant. And remember, I had mentioned that in the original Arabic is وَهُمْ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. It is actually a verb, humility. It's a performance of humility. It's not just the result. It means they are doing something to keep them in that state of humility, and therefore of ubudiyah, of being aware of receiving the gifts of rububiyah with gratitude, because that humility is when you're affirming again and again that one is not perceiving themselves as above glorifying and praising their Rabb. Whenever they remember him, whenever they are reminded of his ayat, of his blessing. So the fact that a verb is used also emphasizes that this is an intentional and a conscious practice. They choose humility over arrogance, and arrogance comes together with ghafla. Here, arrogance is not going around showing off self-conceit, but it's more an inner arrogance, an arrogance coming from not being aware of who we truly are, and it's an arrogance that is the result, or together it's the result, and it stems from, and ghafla, it nourishes and sustains that state of ghafla, where we live in the delusion that we are the doers, we are the source of whatever we take pride in, and what we identify with. That's the arrogance we're talking about here. So, and that's why in this sense, arrogance is what makes people turn away from either from believing in God as their Rabb, not necessarily denying him is included, either denying God totally or believing in God but not as their Rabb. Therefore, there is always shirk involved, and therefore remaining in a state of ghafla, because only in that state of ghafla we can sustain that delusion that we are somehow small Rabb. We also do things. Therefore, we think that our self-value is due to what we do and what we have and things like that, which is a total misperception, misunderstanding of the fact of reality. It is based on total delusion and illusion. So arrogance is what stops people from surrendering to their reality. And the reality is that we are abd, and abd means that we are totally and completely and wholly 100% 24/7 dependent on our maker, our creator, our Rabb's sustaining us in life with his gift, with everything, with our breathing. Our life is already always a gift. Our seeing, our thinking, our being aware, our speaking, everything is that we think we have is actually done unto us, given to us. So even when we believe in God, we have to be careful because the moment we don't perceive, or the moment, let's say, we perceive ourselves as somehow separate from our Rabb, somehow independent to a certain extent, dependent on him, in that gap of illusion, of ghafla, of it's a misperception, it's not a fact, it's against reality. There is a gap there, open for shirk, open for ghafla, open for delusion. So just not denying God does not mean that we are true believers. As much or as long as we think that we are somehow self-sustained, that much we are not aware of our ubudiyah. We are not aware of God as our Rabb here and now, always. So humility, as you see, is very extremely significant and important in the path to Iman, in the path of knowing God as our Rabb, and proceeds from knowing ourselves as his abd, as totally dependent on his blessings, on his sustaining. And therefore, humility is the first step, and it's a necessary step towards Iman, towards belief in God, and eventually ihsan, living with that, with the consciousness of that Iman, inshallah. And so humility also will manifest itself in our life as not taking anything for granted, which we tend to do when we are in a state of ghafla. And that's why in ghafla, we don't know we are in ghafla. That's the whole point of ghafla. Unawareness, mindlessness, heedlessness. So in ayah 15, we have these people who truly believe in our ayat. They have these four qualities, and in 16, those qualities, they have more qualities, and quality is that they cannot stay, they are restless at night, and they cannot but wake up and call on their sustainer in fear and hope. That's the fifth quality. And the sixth quality is they spend from what God provides for them. So the true believers, we are told, they feel restless and cannot sleep, and so they forsake their sleep in order to pray and call on to their Rabb in fear and hope. So these awakening, when people are all asleep, can be understood in two ways, and these two ways are actually complementary, and they come together. One is literally, they actually wake up at night when everyone is asleep and they pray. And the second meaning is they are awake spiritually, in the spiritual sense of the world. So not only at night, but 24/7, or as much as possible whenever while others are deep asleep in the sleep of ghafla. So, and these two meanings support each other and complement each other. It's not easy for those who are not spiritually asleep in ghafla. Those who are asleep, those are in ghafla, cannot easily wake up at night, physically wake up at night and pray. At least they can do it regularly and as not as a burden, but as a need. When we fulfill a need, it doesn't feel as a burden. So you see that are actually complementary, they come together. And we are told here, in fear and in hope. Sorry?
There seems to be a question. Somebody has their hand up.
Yeah, if there is a question, just speak so I can hear, because I don't follow the... Sorry.
Yeah. So, would you please go ahead? Arig, you are muted if you're talking. I guess maybe he or she is not ready to speak. Okay,
maybe it was not meant to be.
Okay, maybe it was by mistake. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Thank you.
So we're told it's they pray in fear and hope. So it's the fear of falling into arrogance and hypocrisy, into the illusion that I am the doer, I am the believer, I am the one who is thankful, I am the one who is waking up and praying. All those are possible traps. And there is the hope, and that's the fear of falling back into the ghafla. And there is the hope in God's infinite and all-encompassing mercy and compassion, and therefore seeking his guidance and his help all the time. And that's what we do in Surah Al-Fatiha, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. We only worship you, and therefore we seek help only you, and we seek guidance from you. And this balance of fear and hope is what keeps their awareness alive and leads to worship, ibadah, with ubudiyah, with that not only following the ritual without the inner mindfulness, consciousness of being a abd, but ibadah has to include a sense of ubudiyah. And ubudiyah is 24/7, and ibadah is usually what we think is only like some forms, but actually ibadah should be everything. The one who is aware, who lives in ihsan, his breathing is ibadah, his eating is ibadah, his drinking is ibadah. Everything becomes because of that awareness. And the last believer is infaq, we are told. They spend from what we provide for them. مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And this last quality is actually the result of Iman, and at the same time, it is the embodiment of Iman. So it is the result of that process of Iman. Those who have all these qualities end up spending from what God provides for them. So it is the result, but it's also they're performing their Iman. So it's an embodiment of their Iman at the same time. This ayah, this phrase, وَمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, is repeated in the Quran. And for instance, it is repeated in Surah al-Baqarah at the very beginning, when we are told who the muttaqeen, the God-conscious people are. In ayah 3, so we are told the God conscious are who are this and this and that, and they are described. And one of the description, again, at the end, ayah 3, we are told those who believe in the unseen and are constant in prayer, and they spend of what we provide for them. So it is also the description of the God conscious, al-muttaqeen. And so in what's coming, I'm relying on Imam Nur Rahimahullah's commentary on this ayah 3 of Surah Al-Baqarah. So what he says about مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. First, he attracts attention to the fact that we are told مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ. So the verb used here, what we have provided for them, what we have given them as providence, as rizq, instead of, for instance, there are other ways of saying it in Arabic. It could be so I won't go there because you need Arabic. So I'll go only about yunfiqun, since here it's about infaq. So the yunfiqun here is spending in a particular way, spending without expecting anything in return, and spending for something. For instance, if you give something as nafaqa to someone, it should be for a need, to take care of a need of that person. If that person is going to waste it, for instance, you can't give it, because then it's not infaq anymore. And that's interesting. And the ayah didn't say they give sadaqah or they give zakat, or no, it says yunfiqun here. And it is from mimma, and it starts with mimma. Normally in Arabic you would say yunfiquna mimma razaqnahum, but here no, it's mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun. So from what we gave them is comes first, means it is emphasized, it attracts the attention that what they are giving in a particular way is not is not from their wealth. It's from what God gave them. God is speaking here. So the from there, the min indicates that there shouldn't be any wastefulness, because already in nafaqa, the verb nafaqa means it can't be wasted. If anything is going to be wasted, it's not infaq. And because it is from what God gave, also you cannot, it's not like it's yours, you give it as you want, to whatever you want, spend it in whatever you wish. I think you have to pause and be careful. No wastefulness. And of course, this wastefulness is going to be understood depending on the person, not only in worldly terms, but in terms that relate to the hereafter, because it is directly given. So it is directly, the relationship is directly vertical. When we receive, when we have something in our hand, with that, imagine with that awareness how you're going to spend it. You can't just spend it as you want. And also by saying that God has provided you from what you are going to give, it makes it clear that the giver is not doing a favor to anyone. So it's not like I am giving to someone, I'm doing you a favor. No, it is God who is the giver, and people are merely the means, the channels. It just happened that it was given to you to be given to that person. That's it. There is no superiority, nothing to for the ego to claim there. And of course, this also corroborates the use of the verb yunfiqun from anfaqa, which is always used in the Quran to denote spending freely on or as a gift onto others, but always for something that is needed and not, no waste is involved. And also the fact that what is provided is not mentioned. So the fact that it is not mentioned makes it open. And the fact that the verb razaqna, what is given as rizq means anything that is, when we say rizq, it means it's provided as it benefits us. So whatever is beneficial, but it's not specified, it means it includes the giving of everything, either material, immaterial, physical or non-physical, property, knowledge, ideas, help, friendship, attention, all kinds of good words, all kinds of things are included. I won't go into the detail because there is, again, from what
Yamina?
Imam Nursi wrote his tafsir primarily in Arabic, so there is some Arabic involved, but I think we get the general message is that you are spending in a certain way and not from what your own wealth, but what to be aware and conscious that it is being given onto you to be given or spent either on others or other things. So this spending from what God provides for us works in two ways. As our iman increases, we give with awareness. We are aware of who the giver is, so we give in his name, Bismihi. That's why we say Bismillah at the beginning of everything, including the beginning of giving. We give in his name, he is the giver. And also, the more we give consciously, the more our iman is going to increase and our ihsan. So we'll talk about it because this is very important, because we can apply anything else. Giving here is not only giving of wealth, but giving of anything. Any interaction with other people is actually with other people or with the world out there, is somehow a giving. It reminded me in Surah Al-Hadid, and I think we did study together the Surah Al-Hadid, we've seen how Iman leads to giving and giving Bismillah. So we're told, for instance, in Ayah 7 of Surah Al-Hadid, which is Surah 57, then in God and in His Messenger, believe then in God and His Messenger, آمنوا بالله ورسوله وأنفقوا مما جعلكم مستخلفين فيه, and spend out of what He has made you trustees of. For those of you who believe and who spend shall have a great reward. فالذين آمنوا منكم وأنفقوا لهم أجر كبير. So you see here, Iman and Infaq are in the same ayah, in ayah 7 of Surah 57, twice they are mentioned one after the other. Iman, if you believe, then make infaq. And if you believe and make infaq, there will be great reward. And of course, here in this ayah, it starts with believe in God and in his messenger. And I understand this specifically mentioning the messenger here is an indication that Iman needs to be lived. And how is it going to be lived and performed and experienced? By following the example of the messenger, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And that's why Iman bil Rasul, belief in the prophets, is so important, because that's how we learn how to live with Iman. So here it says anfiqu. It's actually how do you say an imperative form of the verb spend, which appears actually in the Quran 18 times. So for instance, in Surah al-Baqarah, Surah 2, in Ayah 267, we are told, O you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, anfiqu, spend from the good things which you have acquired, and from that which we bring forth for you from the earth, and do not give the bad things that you yourself would only accept with your eyes closed. It means that you disdain, that you don't like. And know that God is self-sufficient, ever to be praised. So you see in this ayah, these are tests. I see them personally as tests. It says, give from the good things that you have, and do not give of and from what God has given you from the earth. And the others, because you acquire, it seems like we're doing something, but again, everything is from. But do not give of the things that you yourself don't like. That's not giving from what God has given. It's better than throwing away, sure, but that's not. And we are also told that there is a lot of barakah, lots of blessings in infaq fi sabilillah, in giving. So we are told in Surah Al-Baqarah, just a little bit before this ayah, in ayah 261, we are told the parable of those who spent their amwalahum, their possessions, their wealth, for the sake of God, or in the path of God, fi sabilillah, in the path of God, is that of a grain out of which grows 7 ears, in every ear 100 grains. For God grants manifold increase unto whom he wills, and God is infinite, all knowing. So you see, he's saying when you give in the path of, this is what we want to learn. What is this fi sabilillah, bismillah? What is the path of God that you give one, and this giving is like planting a seed. The seed grows 7 ears, in every ear there is 100 grain. So 1 grain becomes 700 grains. And this is only a parable. In reality, it's manyfold more than this. Can you imagine such a giving that gives manifold in this world, and in the next one we cannot even measure it, because it's the world of infinity, the world of eternity. So here, this fi sabilillah, in the path of God, with the consciousness of being Khalifa, in Surah Al-Hadid, it says, from what we made you Khalifa of. It means whatever wealth, whether it is material wealth and possessions, or knowledge or wisdom or friendship, whatever you have that is of benefit, that is beneficial, is all given to you, and you are only a Khalifa, a successor. And you have to be aware of this. It means we are not the true owners. And so it says, give from what God has entrusted you. So we need to be careful not to betray the trust. And part of the trust is not only out there, but also in, like the compassion, the knowledge, you say, but I know because I am the one who is curious and I want to, that curiosity is also given to you. And I help people because I love helping people. I'm very compassionate. Where did you get that compassion from? So everything is included in this. Whatever we have given to you, all anything beneficial that you find within you, within and without, anything that is in your sphere of under your control, what you can do something with it. And being Khalifa is successor. We just named you, put you there. That's it. It's not yours. So now we're starting to see more the connection between belief and giving. If we can't give and share, it is a sign that we think that our property, our wealth, whatever we possess is truly, truly ours. So it feels like, why should I give it? So we may have a problem there because it seems like it's mine. And so it seems like I get to decide what to do with it. Ego says, when you spend for yourself, you can even, waste, overspend myself and whoever is connected to my ego, my family, whatever. In my sphere of ego, it seems it's okay. But outside of that, it's so hard. That's a sign that I have not confirmed that the true owner is not me. It means I am still living in the delusion that I am the owner. That delusion is arrogance. This is the arrogance of, I own this, I worked for it, or I inherited, or whatever it is, but I do whatever I want with it. It is arrogance vis-a-vis our Rabb. And we are told in Surah An-Nisa, Surah 4, ayah 38, and God does not love those who spend their wealth to show off and who do not believe neither in God nor in the last day. And whoever has Satan for a companion, how evil a companion he has. Now, it could be that in the rest of our life, there may be Iman, but if in one interaction, there if we cannot give, or if we give only in relation to or from the ego, then if giving in the path of God without any benefit from the ego is hard, in that particular action there is a disconnection with belief in God and in the last day, in the hereafter. And anything that disconnects us from God and the hereafter is related to Satan, is the work of Satan. That's why it says, and whoever who has Satan for a companion, how evil a companion he is. And in Surah Al-Imran, Surah 3, Ayah 117, we are told the parable of what they spent in the life of this world. It means spending in the life of this world without any connection with the hereafter, without any connection with God. It means this is spending, just spending, but without the awareness that I am in the name of God, Bismillah, because we'll see what it means and how we spend Bismillah. So this ayah is telling the parable of what they spent in the life of this world is that of a frosty wind, so an icy wind, which strikes and destroys the harvest of people who have wronged themselves. For it is not God who wrongs them, but it is they who are wronging themselves. SubhanAllah. Very wisdom. Or it could be that we cannot spend freely in the name of God in his path because we're afraid. We're afraid that we won't have enough. We're counting. I have only this much. If I give a little bit, that little bit, when you are giving it, when we are in that state of disconnection with the giver, with the source of giving, and of course, it's always because we think my pocket is the source. So if in my pocket I have $10, if I give $1, $2, $2 is like two. Isn't that too much? Like I'll have only 8 left. Will that be enough? If I am in that mode of worrying, that is also an indication that we believe the source of the blessing is limited and finite, and therefore it can't be God. It cannot be the infinite source of everything. And still, it means in that particular interaction, I am disconnected. And if I am disconnected in that interaction, it means most of the time I'm not connected enough so that it does not shed light on my daily interactions. My iman is still too weak, and my iman is weak for one simple reason: I am not taking conscious action, choosing constantly, consistently to go out of ghafla, to choosing to go into what's the opposite of ghafla? Of being mindfully, knowingly, intentionally, purposely doing something for God. And in the beginning, it's not going to be to feel comfortable. That's okay, because I'm not used to. It's a new way of being, a new way of doing things. But if I understand it intellectually, and if my heart says, yes, this is how it is, anything else doesn't make sense, then that conviction needs to be grounded, and it's going to be grounded through amal, through acting upon it. If I say God is the giver, God is all generous and all that, but I don't act as if he's generous, you know what? After a while, I start believing as I act. So we have to act on what we believe, otherwise we will go back to believing on what we are used to acting on. So in the beginning, it's going to take a little bit of effort. And that's what jihad is about. It takes jihad, it takes effort. And we ask for help from God to make it easy. And the more we give in the new way, with the new awareness, the more that will be made easy on us. So again, being afraid that we won't have enough is again an indication of being disconnected from the source of blessing, thinking that the blessings is limited, finite. And so in our perception, we may know that God is the giver, but in our perception, it means in our heart, how it feels. How it feels in our perception is what is in our heart. And that's why Iman is in the heart, we are told in the Quran. That's our true level of Iman. It's in our heart, in that situation, it feels like it's not God, it's not who is the source of giving. We don't think about God is not the source of giving. No, it feels like my pocket, my account is the source, and I know it's limited, and I know what's in it. So if I give this much, you do the maths, whatever is going to, and will that be enough because I have these and this and this spendings, and I all have these things, and so God is not into my equation, my perception of the world. It's not that we say God is not the source, but we live as though the source is limited, and that's an indication that our iman is still needs to be brushed off. It needs to be strengthened. And another test we are given in the Quran, it says in Surah Al Imran, Surah 3, Ayah 92, it's told, none of you, talking to the believers, all believers in the previous ayah, all believers, none of you will attain true piety unless you spend out of what you cherish. So before we were told, do not, and it's in the same ayah, okay? It says, do not give of what, sorry, the same ayah, the same surah. Do not give of what you like, give of what you dislike. Here it says, you will not reach true piety unless you spend out of what you cherish. And whatever you spend, truly God is all knowing of it. لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون, of what you love. وما تنفقوا من شيء فإن الله به عليم. So this infaq is so important. Again and again, even here in the same ayah twice. So genuine iman, genuine belief in God as the giver, the provider, as the one who owns everything, who has sovereignty over everything, leads to the certainty that he alone is the giver. And so if he says share and give, we share and give. We don't, we're not scared about what will happen. I can't share and give. I can't give what I love. It means if I can't give what I love, it means my relationship with that thing that I love is there is a with it. It means I'm expecting comfort. I'm expecting benefit from the thing itself. And that's the road that takes to shirk. It means I'm on the path of making that thing into a potential idol. That's what worshiping means. It means believing that something can benefit me without feeling the connection with God in that interaction, in that relationship. Subhanallah.
Dr. Yamina, your voice is occasionally cutting off. I don't know if you can do anything about it.
I don't think I can.
It's your usual connection, right?
Yes.
Okay then. And Alia, did you want to say something?
Yes, Salam alaikum. As you were speaking about Khalifa, I remember a discussion that we had a long time ago, and the same thought came back to me, which is the CEO of a company, like the CEO of companies get paid the highest salaries, and their job is to make sure that whatever vision of the company or of the owner of the company takes place. And usually that is to benefit the beneficiaries of the company. So God obviously is the one who puts us as CEOs, and he gives us the highest salaries as well, with our breath, with our intellect, with everything we have, and like
all share all
and with that we are accountable for how are we benefiting the beneficiaries, which is like mankind and creation in general. And also we're held accountable. So once a CEO, like, you know, we've heard of many CEOs who have been embezzling to their own account, or have not been benefiting, like the, you know, يستبدلكم يعني, so, you know, have not been benefiting the beneficiaries, so they change them, get another CEO because they've not been doing the job right. And the CEO basically has all of the assets in their hand, and they need to work on making those assets grow and benefit the beneficiaries more and more. And as they're doing that, they're getting the highest salary. And the condition for them to stay on is to benefit those beneficiaries, benefit them in every possible way. And they're benefiting themselves as well. And so then, like, the more they benefit the beneficiaries, the more they are benefiting. And they could be replaced, like Allah says as well. So the CEO comes to me like as an image that I can understand.
Thank you. It's to the extent that there is Iman, there is the awareness that we are Khalifa, we are the successors, we are, in your example, a CEO. Most of the time, when there is no CEO or anything, we are the owners of whatever we have. Of course, when you're the CEO also, you said there is more benefit because you become suddenly, you're entrusted with things that are much greater than what we think when we sneak around and pretend to be the real owners. But the real owners of what? Something that doesn't last beyond the grave, even if there is something like to talk about in this world. So it's really, really, how do you say, pathetic. Our ghafla is really a pathetic way of being in the world. And that's why in Surah al-Hadid again, that was Surah Ayah 7, and in Ayah 10, Surah al-Hadid again is 57. In Ayah 10 we are told, so why should you not spend fi sabilillah? Do you remember it says, believe in God and his messenger and spend fi sabilillah, in the path of God. Here it says, why should you not spend in the path of God? The inheritance of the heavens and the earth belongs to God alone. وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلِلَّهِ مِيرَاثُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. When the inheritance of everything belongs only to him, how come you still not spending? You still find ways. How come? Only because we forget this reality, the reality that the inheritance of everything belongs to God alone. We belong to God alone. That's our reminder. But when we live in the illusion, in that ghafla, it feels to us as though, okay, God gave me everything I have, but he gave me as if somewhere, I don't know, in the past, but right now it's mine. It feels like it's mine. I do whatever I want with it. Or if we have a higher, how do you say, sense of responsibility, then I'll put a small amount for God, and the rest becomes mine, and I do whatever I want with it. Subhanallah, astaghfirullah. But we are told, no, the inheritance of everything belongs to God. It means the end and the result of everything is with him alone, in this world and in Akhirah. And of course, this is incumbent on our belief in God, knowing who God is, and therefore our belief and certainty in Akhirah. So if we have this illusion that even if we do not deny that God gave us whatever we have, it feels right now in our heart, it doesn't feel that God is giving it to me. It feels like it's mine now. And when I do something for Akhirah or something, then I feel like I'm entitled. Where is my how do you say? What is my I want something in return, as if I owe anything to God. Astaghfirullah. What is the sawab? As if. And together with this, part of the ghafla is this ghafla that we talked about in the beginning, which the ghafla that is the obstacle. Because of that, we don't see things, we don't perceive things as what they are, as ayat, reminding us of God, reminding us of His beautiful names, reflecting, mirroring His beautiful names, His wajh Allah, the face of God, and therefore reminding us that this world is transient and that we are on our journey to akhirah, to eternal life. It's because in that state of ghafla, we have the illusion that we will live in this world forever. We know we may die anytime, but that knowing is a knowing. It does not, in our heart, that's not how it feels. That's why Iman is in the heart. How you feel, how we feel is how we live. So it means, it feels like, oh, I have at least like 10 years, 20 years. And even if I lived 10 or 20 years more, still each year, each month, each day is passing. It doesn't mean anything, but that's not how it feels. And so this, the fact that everything, we do not inherit anything because nothing is in ours. Not even our life, not even our breath. We need to reflect on this truth, on this fact. It's a fact that we can make shahada of, we can witness, we can perceive. And the more we perceive it and become sure, certain about it, the more we are likely to act accordingly, if so we decide. Because just because we're certain of a reality, it does not mean that we are going to make the right choices. We have to also decide to make right choices. And that's why we need people around us, salihin, like righteous people who will help us and remind us وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, to remember that truth and reality, and to make choices, inshallah, accordingly, and live accordingly. And so that belief that seems like we are staying here forever, or that like somehow some things are changing, but on the whole the world is standing, my house is still the same, just the weather changes from time to time. This is a perception of the world and event. It's static, somehow static or semi-static. Why? Because it seems like somehow they exist on their own. Yes, maybe just like the house, someone made it one day and now it is standing on its own. I was brought into the world and now I exist on my own, and so it is for the trees and everything. That is a misperception. That is not the truth. Nothing. So it feels like if we are believers, because if we are not believers, they think everything is, there's no dependence on God. But if we have some belief, then it seems like there is a semi-independence from God, or a only partial dependence on Him. And therefore, there is no true ubudiyah. I'm unaware of my ubudiyah, unaware that right now, my life, my breathing, my seeing, my thinking, my everything is in His hand. And so I do not know God as my Rabb, my sustainer, and the sustainer of everything else. But the fact is that God is my sustainer. He's the sustainer of everything else. He's the sovereign over everything here and now. He has control over everything. And if we lived with this knowing, with this certainty, with this iman, with this belief, then life would be much more meaningful, because we get really, really frustrated and anxious, because deep down we know that even those things that we imagine we are controlling, we control only a small part of them, and most of it is outside of our control. And so when we are aware of this, then we are always constantly in a state of praying, asking for help, and in a state of praising, of glorifying God, who is in control of everything. So if things happen the way I want, I put my kettle on the fire and the water boils, subhanallah, because who said there could be the end of the world and it wouldn't boil? There is no taking for granted of anything. So everything becomes a means of thanking God. I planted the plant and it grew. It could have died. Who said that just because you planted it, have overwatered it and then it rots? Or I woke up in the morning. Of course, people wake up in the morning. No, sometimes they don't. One day I won't. And deep down, we know that. So we are in constant, remember, all these things become ayat, and we go back to 15, the qualities of the true believers. We are in a state of sajdah, of prostration before the glory of our God, of our Rabb. We glorify Him. Subhanallah, everywhere is an ayah reminding us of Him. We praise Him. Every is a gift, is a blessing from Him. We cannot control anything. Nothing is under our control. And as we are told in the beginning of Surah Al-Hadid, He's the first and the last, the outward and the hidden. And so with this belief, it becomes easier to spend in the path of God and in His name, whether in ease and plenty or in times of hardship. And when we don't have this awareness, even in times of ease of plenty, we may be able to give, but it's not sure we are giving in His path, and especially in His name. So here, what is important is the more we share and give of God, the more we are made to realize firsthand that God is our sustainer, and He is indeed the giver who causes us to give, who makes us give. And so we become more and more aware of His constant giving to us and through us. He gives us and He gives to others through us, and He gives us also through others. Others, not only human beings, but through other means, other creatures. Like He gives us fruit through trees. He gives us food through mud and soil and earth, etc. And so the possibility of shahada increases, and the rewards of spending in the name of God, Bismillah, also from what we are given, not from what we think belongs to us. There is a reward there. Remember, there is a reward in ayah 16 and in many ayats in the Quran. After the giving, there is a reward. It mentions the reward, and there is mention of the reward in ayah 17 too, as well. In ayah 17, we are told, فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُم مِّن قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And talking about these true believers, no human being, no soul, it says, فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ. In the translation says no human being, but actually it says no soul. No soul can imagine what joy, what delight is kept hidden in store for them, as a reward for what they have done. And inshallah, maybe we'll talk about it more next week. But as far as the benefits of giving mindfully, giving from what God has given us, we have to keep in mind that God gives us. So we need to give from what God gave us. And what God gives us is not only wealth, right? This is very important because usually we tend to say, okay, yes, I agree, God gave me this and this and that, everything, but we are always talking about outside of me. And that's correct, but it is incomplete. And because the blessing, what is given is incomplete, then the confirmation of what is given and the confirmation of acting God is also going to be incomplete. I'll explain this. So he gave you a house, he gave you wealth, he gave you maybe knowledge, maybe strength, maybe health, maybe, and you can give out of that. You can help with your strength and health. You can help others. Maybe you speak well, you smile easily, you smile to people. That may be healing for many. You have wealth, you share with others. Together with this, he also gave us the urge to give, the compassion to give, the generosity when we are giving. All those are also given to us. Otherwise, I'd be giving God's gift, but not in his name, but in mine. Like I would be imagining that I am the compassionate one. I am a compassionate person who gives what God gave me. I'm there, I'm getting there, but if I get stuck here, then it can be dangerous. I will never know God as the true compassionate, because it will feel as though the giver is me, but I'm giving, what I give is God's, but the giving is me who is performing it. So I cannot make shahada in this type of giving. It is a mindless giving. The act of giving itself is mindless, or half mindless, let's say. I'm aware that what I'm giving is from God, but I'm not aware that the giving itself is also from God. So in that giving, give from what God gave me, I can say, okay, God gave me this, but I already knew that anyway. So there is of iman in that giving, because the act of giving is not given back to its owner. I am appropriating it without realizing. There is still no light in that area. The inner circle, my inner sphere, is still in darkness, is still in ghafla. I still have the illusion that I am giving what God gave me. I think this is very, very important. When, therefore, there is no increase in iman, no ihsan, because in that giving, I am not in the presence of the giver, and therefore no good news related to akhirat, neither to akhirah. So how the opposite is when we are aware that our giving is not from us. Our giving is not only we are not giving out of our property, but even the giving, whatever the compassion I feel, the need for help, the urge to do something are all given to me. I pause and I watch, I observe, I make mushahada. And I look inwardly. You can call it muraqaba as well, because looking, inspecting inside is muraqaba. It's also a name of God, Raqib. And what I see is I will find that I am made to. I have a need to give. Having a need to give does not make me the giver, because where did that need come from? Where did that urge come from? I am a channel. I am a mirror. It is coming through me. Suddenly, there was no compassion, no need to help. I see or I read something about some people in need, some situation, and suddenly I feel myself filled with compassion, filled with the urge to help. Where did they come from? I am not the source of that. So I need to do some reflection, some pausing and questioning, asking the question and watching, 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 observing. In Arabic, mushahada, observing, is the same root as shahada, witnessing. So the observing and witnessing come from the same word. And then when I realize that it is done unto me, then I can witness that not only what I give is from God, is from my Rabb, but the urge to give, to help, the compassion, everything is from Him. And now there is shahada. When I'm the giver, there was no shahada. When I'm not the giver, there is shahada, because He is the giver. When I pause to question what's going on, I am made to realize that I am not the giver. I am made to give. I am a channel to the giving. I then witness that my Rabb alone is the giver. There is no giver except God. Remember, there is no God except God. La ilaha illallah. There is no creator except God. There is no giver except God. There is no knowing or knower except God. It means my knowing is from Him, my giving is from Him. And parallel to this, we can apply the Shahada, La ilaha illallah, to all the names of God, to all the qualities involved in this giving. In this giving there is a knowing. I know of a situation that made me feel that way. There is a seeing, a hearing, a compassion, a helping. All those are His qualities and not mine. They only reflect on me. I am a mirror, I'm a channel to those qualities, and that's how I can know God with His beautiful names. And those names of God are eternal, and they apply not only here and now and everywhere, but also always eternally in the hereafter as well. So this is very important. Is it clear up to now? Because it's key.
You know, Yamina, this concept is a concept that, like, if we start with it early on, the concept about realizing that the urge to do something is given to me, because like there's some things that are very clear. When you see someone about to fall, you find yourself, everyone running to help them from falling, or like, you know, or a child crying, everyone wanting, like, you know, finding themselves running towards comforting. So this becomes easy because you realize that not only you are doing it, other people are doing it. And one time we had a school come to visit us, and we were explaining like this concept, and kids got it very quickly. And I was thinking, this is actually an easier way to understand that we are given the urge, because once we understand we're given the urge, then we understand we're giving whatever we are given as well. Yani, so if even the urge is given, then the possession also is easier to understand that's given. So it's a key concept, like you're saying, and the more we focus on
inside
these
في
times,
الأنفس.
yeah, the more it will become clear, inshallah. Jazakallah kulla khair.
Once it's resolved inside, then it's easier to understand it in the outer world, because if even my seeing and hearing and my life and breathing is not mine, I cannot take claim ownership of whatever is out there. And so this is very important, because now I realize that we are constantly being given. We are being given life. We are being given seeing, hearing, tasting, helping, compassion, feeling, sorry, mercy. Everything is being given to us constantly here and now. And this realization is shahada. This realization leads to knowing God with his beautiful names, knowing God as our Rabb, knowing who we are as Abd. This is our ubudiyah. And it leads to a reward in this world that leads to rewards in akhirah as well, because the names are eternal. So the reward, this is a reward to the soul, to the heart, and it brings peace and trust in God, because tomorrow I may be the one in need, but there is no fear and no sadness, no grieving, as we are told again and again in the Quran for the believers. No fear and no grieving, no sadness. Why? Because my Rabb is the knowing. He knows in which state I am. He knows what I need. He's the seer, he's the healer, he's the powerful, the giver, the compassionate, and carry on with all the list of the names that you are. You don't have to list them or give them a name. You only have to be acquainted with them in your heart. And the result is we are at peace because of we know our Rabb this way. And of course, there is also what about after death? The fear of death that is underneath all our other fears. When we have a fear of what will happen to me if there is no money, there always after it, there is underneath it the fear of death. How about death and after death? Still, I am at peace because I can trust my compassionate Rabb. Because I know him here and now. The evidence is in me right now. He is constantly sustaining us in a compassionate way. The more we know him that way, the more we believe in him, the more we live in that, with that awareness. That's the ihsan, that is the result of that iman, and the more I can trust. So this practice of iman increases our yaqeen, our certainty in who God is as our Rabb, and it reinforces our iman that giving becomes ibadah, that giving is worship, that giving is an ayah that increases our iman. It says in another ayah that whenever they see the ayat, they encounter God's ayat, it increases their iman. But when I think I'm the giver, it doesn't increase my iman. Here, when I know that I'm not the giver, it means my not being the giver becomes the mirror to who the true giver is. And when I know who the true giver is, it means that interaction, that giving is ibadah, it is worship, it increases my iman, it increases our ihsan. And as a result, it also increases our trust in God here and now and always. And so we feel it. How do we feel it? We feel it as itmi'nan, as peace and joy and satisfaction in the heart, as we are told in the Quran, as inshirah, as an expansion of the heart. And this reward of knowing God, this reward of iman and ihsan, living in the presence of God, that's what ihsan is the most valuable thing we could wish for. Because in everything else we are after in this world, we're striving for, is to reach that state of inner peace, inner joy that has no underlying fear, that fear of after death, that fear of what will happen in the future. Here it's just the opposite, because there is underlying an inner peace, an inner trust in God, who is taking care of everything here and now and forever. So that certainty in the eternal life, in the hereafter, brings that soothing itmi'nan, satisfaction, fulfillment. And so knowing God and believing in Him, that's why we're told it is the purpose of our life, and in it lies human fulfillment and human success, that everyone is constantly running after, doing all kinds of things to achieve this and this and that, and all those achievements. If you ask people why all this, because they want to reach that inner peace. But that inner peace, we're told in the Quran, you cannot reach it, you cannot without a connection with God, because without that connection, there will always be a black hole, a huge disconnection, and deep down we will know that no, everything is transient, passing, and nothing can sustain us, nothing can take care of us except Him. That's why we are told in Surah Al-Ra'd, ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. Only through the mentioning and the connecting with God do the human hearts find their itmi'nan, their fulfillment, and their satisfaction, and their inner peace. And so you see how the giving at the end in Surah Al-Baqarah, giving from what God has provided, spending from what God has provided for us, is at the end, the last quality of the muttaqin, the God conscious. And here it is the quality of the true believers. And you can see how it holds, it contains all the qualities of belief. And it is an enactment, an embodiment, a living, an experiencing of that belief. Because when I give with this consciousness, with this knowingness, with this iman, with this ihsan, in that giving, there is subhanallah, you are the giver, I am not. Subhanallah, you are the one giving through me. You are the giver, you are the compassionate, you are the helper. So as I am doing the shahada, that shahada is done in a tasbih form, bihamdihi, and with hamd, with praising him by mentioning, declaring his beautiful names, not without realizing, appropriating them and saying, oh, God is the giver, very good, but actually acting as if I am the giver. There's no tasbih there. Remember what tasbih is? Tasbih is recognizing that it is not from things themselves, it is not from me, Subhanallah. So when there is tasbih, we close the door to shirk because it's not from them. It is only from you. But I cannot be making tasbih bihamdih when I am in ghafla and thinking that I am giving, even if I think I'm giving what God gave me, but I don't include myself in what is given. That is so important, and it leads us to the next ayah where we are told no soul knows what joy and delight is kept hidden from them as a reward for what they used to do. So this is what these true believer, they do something, and we are told what they are doing. We are given the 6 qualities. They are doing it in such a way that they are given such a reward, such joy, such a delight that no soul knows. And this is only in this world. And we know there that this is only a taste of an ayah, a taste of knowing God, living in his presence. And can you imagine in Akhirah when it will be even clearer? It will be many fold more beautiful. Bi'idhnillah, inshallah, subhanallah. And you see how ayah 15, 16 lead to 17. In the beginning, when I read, I said, what is 17 doing here? Okay, it lead because why did I ask that? Because I know that usually you say, okay, 15, 16, talking about the true believers, they do this, they do that. Therefore, Allah will give them the reward. But that's not how we are reading the Quran. This is not how I learned to read the Quran from Imam Nursi, rahimahullah. We read it in a way that 17, the link, the connection between the ayat is organic. One leads to the other, one leads to the other. Otherwise, it is, I have not confirmed anything. Okay, they do good things and Allah will give them the reward. Where is the evidence? I don't know. Usually, that's how we know. You do good things, Allah will reward you. It means we are missing something here because Allah is saying you make shahada and there is evidence in everything. And we make shahada in everything. And each ayah in the Quran is to be confirmed, tasdeeq. It means, I will say, Sadaqallahu al-Azim. This is from God, this is from my Rabb, from my Creator, and He is saying the truth. How do you know it's the truth? Because I witnessed it in the world, in myself, and I know it's the truth. Otherwise, I would repeat Sadaqallahu al-Azim, but actually, I don't mean it. I'll repeat the Shahada, but actually, I don't mean it. Astaghfirullah. Subhanaka Rabb. Was there a question? No?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I just wanted to share something. I feel like something clicked for me, which is when you were talking about kind of inspecting inside. I realized that I think I've been paying a lot of attention to like kind of my ghafla, and so for example, like if I'm feeling angry, I'm training myself to say, oh, anger is visiting me. And I feel like I've been kind of paying more attention to like the quote unquote negative qualities that we think of, like, oh, anger is visiting me, jealousy is visiting me. And I realize I'm not taking the opportunity to do that with the divine, the beautiful names, in the sense that, when I feel this urge to help, or I feel this urge that, you know, like someone's hurting and I want to make them feel better. I'm not in the practice, or it hasn't even struck me before to say like, oh, you know, I'm being like the urge to heal I'm being visited by that, and then connecting that to God, or, you know, when I feel compassionate for something, saying like, oh, compassion is visiting me right now. And for me, just kind of thinking through that, I'm also noticing that, yeah, I'm putting myself in between those things, because, you know, if I do something nice, I'm like, oh, it makes sense. God has made me essentially a nice person, and so this is, you know, it's natural for me to be nice in these situations. And I'm realizing now that I did put myself in between that, but to flip it in a way and say, oh, I'm being visited by goodness, or compassion, or healing, or comfort. I don't know, that just makes me connect in a more, it takes myself out of it. I really do feel like the imagery that comes to my mind is very much like a vessel, like a kind of
there is something more awesome, more amazing going on there. That compassion suddenly becomes something so valuable. So you go into sajda as if either physically or at least metaphorically, like you're at awe. Subhanallah, you say, yusabbihuna bihamdih. You are so compassionate. You are the helper. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And actually, even when there is, when we do it with anger and jealousy and things, eventually it needs to lead us to God and to the beautiful names of God, because I could be angry either rightfully or wrongfully. If it's wrongfully, then there must be a misperception on my part. But in any case, whether it's wrongfully or rightfully, it's probably because of something I am perceiving as unjust, rightfully or wrongfully. And that also is the name of justice wants to manifest through me. It means I have a need for justice. Or if I have jealousy, if I'm jealous of something, whatever it is, for what we are usually jealous of something that is good, that we see as beneficial. And that something good and beneficial is always related to one or a bunch of names of God. And actually, we have a need for those names. But when we forget about the vertical connection, the true source, then we are stuck in the horizontal relationship. And when we realize that, it's again time to make istighfar and realize that not only we find the source, but we find that the source is infinite. And it is again time for tasbih. And you feel your heart physically expand, and there is so much relief. And you feel what happened from being something that looked ugly, being jealous, suddenly is transformed into something beautiful. It became an ayah reminding us of God. So that inner work is really, really the key to everything. Without that inner work, nothing, Tawheed never sticks in, truly. There is always an opening where shirk is always, it's vulnerable, that our Tawheed that does not go inside. It means the I is still claiming ownership. How can there be true Tawheed? But in that, when we let go of that claim of ours, that brings a lot, that claim of ours brings a little joy, the joy of being the doer, and brings a lots of pain, the pain of knowing inside, deep down, that truly I know that I can't do anything. I can't control anything. And so when we let go of that claim and prostrate before our Rabb and worship Him alone and glorify Him with praise, there is so much relief, so much joy, so much, everything suddenly is at peace. SubhanAllah, it's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Inshallah, we'll continue studying the Quran next week. And for those of you who can join us this Saturday, February 15th, we have a day-long event workshop at the Diyanet Center in Maryland, and Dr. Yamina is the speaker or the teacher for the day, and we'll have two sessions, and one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and with a break in the middle. So the details are on our Facebook. You may have received it in today's newsletter too. So join us if you can, and until we meet again, may Allah make us among those who are giving in His name, taking in His name, and remembering and praising Him, inshallah.
آمين آمين إن شاء الله. في أمان الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله